name is Juan Landivar. I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome all of you to this wonderful event of our where we are celebrating our past, our present, and future research and extension activities of the center. I joined the center in 1998 first as a project leader, and then in 2008 I became the center director. The Texas A&M Research and Extension Center was established in 1974 with the mission of conducting research that sustains and enhances environment, promotes the formation of new leaders, and contributes to the economic growth of South Texas and beyond. If we define the past of our unit, of our center, as the first 20, 25 years of existence, the research component of the center was built on the shoulders of very exceptional persons. Scientists like Mr. Lucas Reyes, who focused his work on the introduction, validation, evaluation of cultivars adapted to this region, and he was very influential in testing and evaluating varieties of our traditional crops like cotton and sorghum. Dr. John Benedict pioneered host plant resistant work in this region and in Texas. He was very, very influential in promoting the implementation of the boll weevil eradication program, and also working with scientists from the USDA and private industry. He was a key player in the introduction of transgenic cottons, for the control of Lepidoptera pests. In fact, the launching of transgenic cottons in the U.S. were done at two locations in the country. One at Starkville, Mississippi, and the second one here at these research stations in the plots of Dr. John Benedict. The boll weevil eradication program and the introduction of transgenics cotton cultivars are considered fundamental technologies, responsible for maintaining our current cotton industry. Dr. John Matoka, cropping systems research agronomist and soil scientist. His long-term conservation tillage work are legendary, gave us a lot of information demonstrating that cropping systems, crop rotations, proper soil fertility, and so on, were fundamental components of modern cropping systems oriented at increasing profits and maintaining health and conserving the integrity of our soils. Dr. Gary Albody, plant pathologist, we can consider him of our past, present, and future because he's still here. But his work provided very, very important support to scientists from all over the country, from the U.S., from internationally, and of course to our project leaders here in evaluating sorghum cultivars, particularly for their adaptation to our region, particularly in the area of diseases. He continues working with us and supporting our research scientists in identifying and developing control measures for plant pests. The success of the research that I just mentioned in the first 20 to 25 years, it couldn't be possible without technical and administrative support. Kenny Schaefer was our farm manager during most of this period, and he was fundamental in helping our scientists in maintaining their field plot research and supporting scientists from all over the state that came to work at this area. There were several research centers during this first 25 years of our existence, but Dr. Bobby Edelman probably represents very well most of them. I credit Dr. Edelman for transitioning our center from a cultivar evaluation research center to our current modern high technology center that focuses on cropping systems and digital agriculture and other aspects of modern cotton production. Bobby Edelman was a motivated administrator who promoted teamwork. He led research programs demonstrating that cropping systems conserve our natural resources, are profitable to producers, and more important, Dr. Edelman demonstrated that the cropping system that we're currently using in the coastal bend. They were environmentally sound and did not contribute to contamination of our waterways. Well, these are some of the visionary past individuals that work at our center. In a way, they paved the way to the work of the center, our present work, and charted our work in the future.
Sorghum has been an important crop across Texas, including South Texas and the coastal bend for a very long time, but especially so after the introduction of sorghum hybrids in the late 1950s. The nearby port of Corpus Christi has long been important for export of the local grain sorghum crop, which is essentially the second sorghum crop to mature across the U.S. after the Rio Grande Valley. Historically, Nueces and San Patricio counties have been among the highest sorghum-producing counties in Texas. The primary endemic disease problems for sorghum across South Texas are 3 soil-borne fungal pathogens causing head smut, sorghum downy mildew, and charcoal stalk rot. The latter is always associated with post-flowering drought stress, so it's sometimes difficult to determine if yield loss is from disease or drought. Charcoal stalk rot can also cause extensive stalk lodging that makes combine harvesting difficult or impossible. The first hybrids released and grown across extensive acreages in Texas and other states had significant problems with head smut. Consequently, hybrids began to be routinely tested in the coastal bend and other locations in Texas for resistance or tolerance to head smut, sorghum downy mildew, and the combination of drought stress and charcoal stalk rot. In the 1960s and 70s, the Texas A&M sorghum team had large sorghum nurseries in several locations across Texas, including the Beeville and Corpus Christi area. The latter nurseries were always established collaboratively through the efforts of Lucas Reyes from the Beeville station, and later with his appointment at Corpus Christi. The Texas A&M sorghum team was made up of sorghum breeders, entomologists, plant pathologists, sorghum quality scientists, among others. At the opening of the Corpus Christi Research Center in 1974, the sorghum team was already in its third year of testing on site with an approximate nursery size of 2,000 or more plots, and disease responses were an important component, especially sorghum downy mildew. In addition to sorghum nurseries on station property, the breeding programs also had variously sized sorghum nurseries planted on producer farms across South Texas, both prior to 1974 and over most of the next 50 years. Most off-station nurseries were located in producer fields which had high rates of either head smut or sorghum downy mildew that might represent new races or pathotypes of the pathogens. They were located in producer fields because that is where the new races occurred. In contrast, drought stress and charcoal rot could be tested anywhere in the region. Eventually, other station researchers took on a more prominent role in the establishment and maintenance of sorghum nurseries. Instrumental in that effort, both on and off station from 1979 through 2017, was Mr. Kenneth Schaefer, who was a farm manager and one-time sorghum nursery technician. In addition to managing the station, he assisted with off-station nursery sites, which ranged from Jim Wells County in the west to Wharton County along the upper coastal bend, and their size varied from 2,000 to 7,000 plots. Screening for disease resistance was often a priority, but of equal importance were agronomic performance, adaptation of lines and hybrids, and other factors that guided selection and rejection of lines to be advanced in a breeding program. There were also evaluations for other diseases and various insects, including green bugs and midge. Late-planted sorghum midge nurseries were planted annually at Corpus Christi for decades. Many nurseries contained sorghum trials for graduate student theses, seed treatments, and more. Texas A&M sorghum team scientists hosted periodic tours of the major South Texas sorghum nurseries over several decades to include the Corpus Christi Center. These tours were attended by public and commercial sorghum workers and often by international sorghum scientists and students. Texas A&M sorghum team involvement in international sorghum research through USAID and INSORMIL from the 1970s onward brought an influx of international germplasm into the Texas A&M programs. This facilitated identification of valuable genetic traits within existing domestic germplasm and identified new sources for incorporation into improved sorghum lines and hybrids. South Texas sorghum nurseries, including Corpus Christi, were instrumental in that process that helped the flow of improved genetics to commercial seed companies. As a group, disease and insect-resistant Texas A&M sorghum lines that were best adapted to subtropical South Texas environments were also among the best adapted to regional environments in most international sorghum growing regions. International testing also provided valuable information when sorghum ergot swept through the Western Hemisphere in 1997 and sugarcane aphid first invaded Texas in 2013. During the last 50 years, there are many other advances that could be listed for sorghum genetics, seed treatments, herbicides, cropping practices, and other factors. The contributions of commercial seed companies, chemical companies, sorghum commodity groups, county agent testing, and Texas A&M crop testing programs also made tremendous contributions. But the Texas A&M sorghum team and this Corpus Christi Research Center played a primary role in South Texas sorghum improvement over the past 50 years. Over the past 50 years, corn is another crop that has become increasingly important across South Texas and the coastal bend. Many advances in corn genetics, production practices, and genetic transformations have vastly increased corn production over the last several decades. After the opening of the Corpus Christi Center in 1974, there was an increasing interest in South Texas corn production. The primary problems limiting corn production in South Texas were associated with post-silking drought stress, especially in the lower coastal bend, which has variable and lower annual rainfall. Charcoal stalk rot caused by a soil-borne fungal pathogen occurs routinely on corn, especially across the lower coastal bend. But its occurrence is not always directly associated with a decrease in yield. It's difficult to separate yield loss caused by drought and that caused by charcoal rot. In contrast to sorghum with charcoal rot, corn remains standing due to better stalk strength. Hybrids with weak stalk strength and susceptibility to charcoal stalk rot are rather quickly identified and removed from commercial production. By the early 1980s, there was a noticeable problem in South Texas with mycotoxin occurrence in pre-harvest corn subjected to late-season drought and heat stress. This was primarily pre-harvest aflatoxin produced by the fungus Aspergillus flavus. But there was also the occurrence of another mycotoxin called fumonisin, which is produced by the fungus Fusarium verticilioides. In addition to the drought stress component in South Texas, there is the involvement of two leaf and ear-feeding insects, corn earworm and fall armyworm, that also contribute to mycotoxin contamination in corn kernels. By 1990, it seemed as if most Corpus Christi Center research and extension specialists and county agents were involved in some efforts to reduce aflatoxin risk through hybrid screening and production practices. In the mid-'80s, collaborative research at the Corpus Christi Research Center was also initiated with Texas A&M corn breeders at College Station and later Lubbock. The Texas Corn Producers Board became instrumental in providing research funds for corn improvement and mycotoxin research initiatives. Through the efforts of corn breeders and other scientists, many local research efforts also had statewide, regional, and even nationwide mycotoxin research components. Genetic advances were made and are ongoing to develop and identify higher-yielding, mycotoxin-resistant hybrids with better adaptation to Texas and South Texas corn production environments. The deployment of corn hybrids with herbicide resistance genes and Bt genes for insect protection starting in the mid-90s were additional important genetic tools to reduce aflatoxin risk in corn across South Texas. Other genetic advances concerning drought response were also important. Corpus Christi Station pathologists, entomologists, and other scientists were involved in ongoing evaluation and investigation of these new and evolving technologies since their introduction in the mid to late 1990s. Research was conducted on the stations at Corpus Christi and Beeville, but also at other off-station locations. The increasing complexity and superiority of different Bt genes, stacking of genes, other natural host genetic resistance to insects and other stressors collectively help to reduce mycotoxin risk in the coastal bend of South Texas. This is sometimes coupled with other aflatoxin reduction management approaches, like the deployment of atoxigenic strains of Aspergillus flavus.
I'm Donnie Montemayor with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service. I'm the District Extension Administrator, and welcome to the celebration of the 50 years of existence of this research and extension facility. What we wanted to do is we wanted to highlight some projects and programs, and especially the people that have contributed so many years to this facility here, and the many outreach that has been provided here as well. Also wanted to make sure that we all understood that there's no way we could have put everything into this video for the many contributions from all the individuals that have been here. So we did the best we could in trying to highlight some projects, some individuals moving forward as well. But one thing that I also wanted to do is I wanted to make sure that we acknowledge the many support staff that have worked here over the years, from office managers all the way through the different associates associated with program assistants and specialists that provided many years of support to the individuals that have been working here, and it could not have been done without their tremendous amount of support. So again, enjoy the videos. These are some interviews that I conducted over the past few months, and I hope you agree that the individuals that provided support here, we needed to celebrate their many efforts.
Well, it's been a long time, 50 years, but I moved in here on in October of 1974. I had a title of assistant district agent, and I had 7 counties that I was responsible for.
Okay.
Well, at that time, Dr. John Hutchison was director, and we had great, legislative
Support.
responsibilities at that time. And of course, this was back in the old ag days where it was before Google, and we were the ag Google for,
Yes, sir.
and the agents were to get in here. And so we had a good structure. Of course, we had a research staff here,
Okay.
and then we had an extension specialist staff. At one time, we had 11 specialists that were here in every stage, and they worked with our agents. And I had responsibilities, administrative responsibilities, for a 22 county area. And at that time, it was a little different administrative structure. See, I was both district director and programmer, ag programmer for the district. I'm a little prejudiced, but I think we had the best, most effective district in the state. But we were big into agricultural result demonstrations. Agents would plan them, but the specialized people had the technical. And I remember one group of demonstrations we put on. We would get the top 2 seed varieties from every county in cotton and in grain sorghum. And we put those in demonstrations all over our district. And then we set the tour dates to where that they were different dates, and agents and producers could go to a lot of different ones. But we had a technical information on what was the best variety, and we would have producers calling us before they got it because they wanted to see that information. They're getting ready to plant, and then
Yes, sir.
about middle of November, 1st of December, they'd want to know what the results were on that. But it was a great program. We had good attendance at our crops tours. We had the Beeman Foundation out here was very good to us, and of course, I didn't know anything about computers, and people didn't know what they did now, but I knew that was going to be important. So I got a lot of funds when we bought all kind of equipment. We had two offices, but we had this thing behind the stage here, completely full of great old big machines. But what this district had, the best agents as a group and we had excellent support and cooperation with the specialists. And I don't think there's any district in the state that could be competitive. And now, one thing that sort of verifies that is of the agents that we had. Now then, there are 6 state program leaders. The 3 of those program leaders, and Donnie is a district director, and 3 of the 6 in the state are agents that come out of this district. That's important, I think. My best friends were, people I met through Extension, and I got to know producers all over the district, and I know the agents and people that knew me. I still have a farm up in East Texas. I still run cattle. It's been my hobby all my life.
The facilities here at the center and the proximity of the location of the district headquarters where our resource specialists were a tremendous asset to our county program, in my opinion. Not only did it provide a research facility that had land to conduct research for the scientists, it also provided housing for a good team of specialists that worked in the area. But I found it to be a great asset to have an auditorium here at the center to allow our producers to come in and come to meetings where they could get the latest information on production technologies. And we utilize this facility here at the center tremendously in our work as a county extension agent. And I think it helped us carry out that mission of the land grant university, bringing the university to the people. When we had educational programs and updates on new technologies, the value of the result demonstration results here in the building, that was great to have those specialists come in, share some of their work. And in fact, the mini annex that became a part of the A&M Center provided our extension specialists with an opportunity to conduct field trials and then share those results immediately after they were available at the conclusion of the season when they had a chance to process the data. I believe that the association with the professionals, the specialists here at the center, the research scientists here at the center, benefited me greatly from the standpoint having access to information that my producers in the county needed. It's always great when you have a team of people that are exceptionally dedicated, and of course some of the most dedicated specialists I've ever known worked here at the center. Dr. Roy Park, he was the go-to guy anytime there was an emerging insect problem. Dr. John Bremer, he was a specialist not only in controlling and identifying weeds, but also application of herbicide technology and drift. And Dr. Hanselka and Dr. Pascal, we conducted annual beef cattle chart courses. We did some of these over at the Lonesome Dove Ranch with our counterparts in San Patricia County. Those specialties were needed throughout our region to work with producers on those types of problems.
I think that the district is made up of great agents, some of the best agents in the state. And so it was really an honor and a privilege to work with them day in and day out on the 4-H Youth Development Program. And they were some of the most creative agents that we have. And, I loved their thinking, creativity, and their dedication to the youth program. I feel like we were always looking at how we can continue to enhance and improve programs that we were offering youth, whether it was something like District Leadership Lab or the Crossroads Career and College Exploration program that we did. And so the conversations never stopped happening when it was, what are we doing and how can we even do more and do better? And I think that's the greatness of AgriLife Extension and the people that I was able to work with in District 11. But one of the other things that was started out of District 11 in my time there, really, it was more of the brainstorming phase, was the 4-H Food Challenge. And again, it was going back to those great agents that were creative and really wanting to revive a 4-H project, the food nutrition project that we had, and has been a very significant project for Texas 4-H. But just in those conversations of what else can we do, we had agents like Sarah Womble and Jody McManus, who and I think probably Jenny Hale, saying, why don't we try something different and try something like, then it was Iron Chef, and now we have things like Chopped. And so the group took it and ran with it. And we said, we're going to take this statewide. And now it's one of our largest contests that we offer in the 4-H Youth Development Program. And it's revived the Food and Nutrition Project. It's enhanced our numbers and had great impact on what youth are learning. And not only learning about food and cooking, but learning about nutrition and learning about teamwork and leadership and communication. So we all know those are great life skills.
In the early days here at the center, we set up a seafood technology laboratory, which is part of the research component. And one of the very first things that we did was to develop the optimal brine freezing system for shrimp vessels, kind of in keeping with traditional agriculture, row crop, specialty type things. We started dealing with the largest fishery in the state of Texas, which is the offshore shrimp fishery. But at the time, when I started here, the shrimp fleet in the Gulf of Mexico were limited to trips of about 2 weeks because they used ice to keep the catch from spoiling before they got back to dock. But that was about the limit because the ice would start melting, and even on ice, shrimp spoil fairly rapidly. So we developed the optimal system for brine freezing. That is, lowering the temperature of water by adding salt to the water to get the temperature below freezing, so that you could put a sack of shrimp in a big box of brine and get it to freeze in about 5 or 6 minutes. And then it goes down into a frozen hold on board. That meant that these vessels that used to be able to go out only for 2 weeks have to go all the way back to port, then go back offshore 30, 40, 50 miles, whatever, spend a lot of time, a lot of fuel. When they weren't fishing, they could now stay out for a month, 2 months, sometime even 3 months, when they were still fishing off of the Campeche banks in Mexico.
And most of that work was done here?
That work was done here,
Awesome.
almost exclusively, yeah.
How quick was that adaptation from producers? How did they adapt to it?
They adapted to it very rapidly.
Very rapidly.
Yeah. Within 5 or 6 years, there was hardly an ice boat left in the Gulf of Mexico. It would not have happened without the team approach. It was our marine agents in the coastal counties that actually showed the shrimp fleet how to set up the system and how to maintain it to get an optimal product.
Well, I came there in 1978, so I think I was there for 35 or 36 years, which was a very enjoyable career. Well, we did a lot of programs in the counties, and the county agents helped us find locations to run many of the tests that we ran. And we ran a lot of on-farm tests. And as I mentioned, in the early years, before Joe Pascal got there, we did a lot of external parasites on cattle on ranches there. So that was all some good work. It's good to do it on farm where people that are on the farm can actually see the work being conducted. Well, we had normally a team of people out of the Corpus Christi Center, and even that came from College Station, the specialists, to work on those tours in the various counties. And I think we did 16 to 18 tours every year. It was a lot of fun to go to some of our test locations so other people could see what was being done in the various counties. Well, I'll tell you, that boll eradication program was a very difficult program in the early years. I had done my PhD research at Uvalde and in Central Texas on the boll weevil and cotton. And that way I was kind of prepared for that, but it was very difficult in the early years, but it sure did pay great dividends. I did a lot of work, insect control and stored grain, both sometimes on farm and at country elevators. And also there at the center, we did a lot of tests in 35-gallon drums of grain. And we determined the best rates of protectants for insect control in that stored grain. On farm test that we did to determine the most cost-effective ways to use to control the insects. And as a result of that, we refined the thresholds in our guides. Those four, the on-farm test, the refinement of thresholds, the boll weevil eradication program, and the best rates of grain protectants for insect management, I think were some of the major accomplishments. I think that's one good thing about the center concept, is you've got all the various disciplines represented, not only extension, but experiment station. And we were officed right next to each other. And that made for an outstanding working relationship at Corpus Christi. And it was just paid great dividends. 35 plus years. Actually, after I retired, I continued to work for nothing. I tell people sometimes that I was overpaid during my career, so I kept working after that to kind of make up some of that.
With state funding, Healthy South Texas was born, and Corpus Christi was the center of that, serving 27 counties. We were able to hire and train a team of health specialists that had a lot of good experience, and they were strategically placed around the 27 counties. We were able to develop a lot of educational initiatives through that program. We developed extra Cooking Well suite of programs, Dance Fit, we had Walk Across Texas. Dinner Tonight, those are cooking schools, and so they're high energy, high impact cooking schools where community is invited to come in, participate. We developed different programs to go with that, such as with diabetes education. So the agents promote those in the community, and then we have nice crowds that come in. They get actual demonstrations, they get recipe books, they get to taste.
We also connected with the Health Science Center. And the Health
Yes.
Science Center did their research, and we assisted in outreach there, didn't we?
Yes, that was a very unique partnership that had not been done before in partnering with the Health Science Center. So they brought their expertise from that end in diabetes, and they did more of the diabetes education. We did more of the practical information on the food preparation and kind of building those programs together to make more impact for people. The other thing I wanted to mention, Donnie, is I think when we look at family and consumer sciences, or now family and community health, we go way back in bringing that agriculture and food together. And when you think about the producers and the projects that were going on in the center here, and then bringing in the health aspect of it, bringing all that together, because people are not just ag producers, they're also family members, they're also parents. And so looking at that kind of family more holistically is something that's really important. And I think that's just so important to look at people as there's many different components in their lives. And I think what's exciting to me about Extension is that we can touch all those aspects of it. And we've seen people change and families change and become stronger and healthier.
I had the chance in 1984 to switch over to Extension and start at the very root level of their computer efforts, computerization. And you're right, at the center there was no infrastructure for computers or networks, or there were a couple of small statistical computers. It kind of looked like cash registers that we had and that were in research. And we had one terminal that we could hook at the center that people shared, that you could hook back to College Station to run statistical analysis. It was a difficult thing. You had to put your data in, dump it up there, and they ran it, and then you had to go back on and retrieve it, and it was kind of painful. But Extension had the idea to start this computer technology unit, they called it at the time. Information technology as a term didn't even exist.
Wow.
And initially, we had just an eclectic set of computers of all sorts. And you had, early Apple and IBM and Kpro and all these different kinds of brands, different companies that were trying to make computers. And we started out, we put a few on the desks, and we had word processing, and we had spreadsheets, and we had a database program. And we started out just trying to, initially teaching people at the center there first how to turn one on and what it could do. And from there, it went it started getting a little more sophisticated as some funds became available. We bought desktop computers, and we put a computer system in the center. And at that time, to do that, we had to do the wiring and the infrastructure all ourselves.
I started as an agent in 1987, and I remember those Corona computers. I remember one computer per office. We called them a computer room. And I remember when days were slow, you found yourself in the computer room trying to learn the computer. That's what a lot of agents did. And and I remember people that adopted it or not. You'll find this story kind of, what you said. I had a trainer agent once that told me, he said, don't worry about that email stuff. He said, if it's important, they'll send it in the mail.
that changed rapidly.
That changed rapidly, didn't it? Yeah, it sure did.
My main role was to train agents and secretaries on how to use computers, how to use different softwares. The other route we took, we would actually bring producers in and teach them, different softwares so they could do record keeping.
Okay.
And how to, for cattle, crops, or, just financial record keeping over the whole, or the whole farm operation or ranch operation. So, that was a big part of me, just actually going out and meeting with producers and training them.
And then also there was databases that were collecting data from ag producers to use that data to become more informed, to make those better decisions in the future.
Yes, and that's one thing that I will say is we had the databases, spreadsheets, and then I worked closely with economists. At the time was Dr. Larry Faulkner, and working with him, he could go out with me when I trained him how to use software, and then he was the genius behind record keeping, and how help the producers answer those financial questions, that economic questions. So as a team, we actually did lots of education of the producers in the district.
But you said 20 some years out of the 50?
Yes.
Yeah, 22?
22.
22 years out of 50. So nearly half of those years of 50.
And actually I've been here another 11 part-time.
Okay.
So 33 years out of the 50.
Out of the 50. Okay. Well, good deal.
And one of the main emphasis 50 years ago when the establishment of this center was to work towards opportunities to work against the drought. The drought is something we have to live with here in South Texas,
Exactly.
our area.
So our role was to try to manage for drought, not manage drought, manage for drought, in trying to keep our pastures as healthy as we could and with a desirable vegetation. I think we were able to teach the decision-making process to a lot of people.
And in turn, it increased profitability.
Yes, sir.
Obviously.
Yes, sir. That was the bottom line.
That was the bottom
to
line.
Look at the cost benefits and to meet your goals. As we identified the issues, we put together the programs. And let's just say it was a brush management program. Mesquite was a big issue. And so that program would be, let's get some demonstrations out. If we've got a new herbicide or we've got the herbicides we know will work, let's put some of these out. Okay, that's a long-term process because it takes a couple of years for that. But at the same time, we might have a seminar or a county program in the county or surrounding counties dealing with that topic, which would let people know what's going on, what the issues are, what some of the solutions may be. And then when the time comes, usually the following year, we would have a field day out there. Again, guided by that county agent. Success of the program dealt with the smaller landowner who was the quicker adapter. And if we showed them something, a lot of them would go ahead and do it. We had a reputation, and I think we still have a reputation of being non-biased and fair in any charges of being paid and giving them the results they want is totally false.
Without this unbiased work that was done out of this center, the producer, the rancher wouldn't have that chemistry, wouldn't have those tools in the toolbox.
Correct.
To be able to improve their opportunities for production, whether it be wildlife, whether it be beef cattle production.
Exactly.
And all those different areas. Forage production.
And one more step forward is that the USDA bases their cost share program on the extension's weed and brush control manual. Everything in that manual goes through this process we just talked about. And if it's in the manual, they can have it in their programs. Another role we had was to take all this data and recommend whether this procedure or treatment with this particular chemical goes into that manual.
With those practices or recommendations, USDA would be able to support the producer.
Exactly.
To be able to improve their property.
Through cost share programs and stewardship.
There's something special about District 11, and the difference is the people. Specialists that we had in District 11, you couldn't find a better set of them across the board. As a team at Corpus, it's probably the best team that I've ever seen work together. They work hand in hand with the agents, they work hand in hand with the research people. They truly believe in the extension and the land grant mission, and really, they don't just talk about it, they live it every day. And it's a passion for each and every one of them. I think the people in the Coastal Bend area have been the biggest benefactors of that. The focus of that center has always been to improve the quality of life and the economic well-being of people in the Coastal Bend of Texas. And I believe that's happened. I think if you look at a lot of the things that's happened in ag and natural resources and family and consumer sciences and 4-H and youth development, if you look at all three of those areas of extension, you just can't find a more impactful program, I don't think, in the state. I'll tell you, it really, that the feeling you get when you go in that district office in Corpus is different in terms of it being a family, it being people that really care about the other person and care about the person as an individual, as a professional, and usually as a friend. And that hasn't changed over the years. That's been the same for many, many years. It was a culture that was established 50 years ago, and everybody that has been in that district office has embraced that culture.